Hello. Now I'm going to try to introduce you to the labs we're going to be doing in this course. So for week 1, there's going to be 2 labs too, and I'm going to look at lab 1 right here. Now, looking at this lab, if it looks a little different on your screen, you could try zooming in or out. So control plus to zoom in, control minus to zoom out. That might help everything fit better. So I've got our learning objectives of the lab here. The RStudio interface, what you should be looking at when you open RStudio. Now there's some important things here. Every time you see a gray box like this, where the font is in this constant width letters, that is something you should run in R. Now, some things you should only run once, and some things you do multiple times. So for instance, this right here is something you should only run once per computer. So if you are doing these labs on one computer, you should only run them once. So you would go in here and probably right there, you'd copy and paste, press enter, but I've already run those, so I'm not going to press enter. And then going back to our lab, something we do every time we open RStudio on our computer is do this. So these are to, remember, make sure to highlight everything. You miss a parenthesis, it's not going to work. So highlight everything. We'll go over to R, and I'm in my project, my Stat Labs project right now. So I'm in my Stat Labs project, and I'm going to copy and paste that. And your computer should do some things. And then if there's no errors, we're all good. So that's kind of, it loaded some extra data and extra things. So now, this video at the top here is something worth watching because it explains more of why we're using R and RStudio for our bigger projects. And that's the idea of reproducible research. So we want, when we do statistics, we want to do it in such a way that there's accountability. Okay, accountability is important when we're trying to figure out what's true. And so we want to create, if we're doing statistics, we want to do it in a way that someone else can follow it and get exactly the same results we did. So that's harder to do in a spreadsheet or other software like that, where you're pointing and clicking. And so you just be like, well, you gotta do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Whereas in R, everything is text-based. And so you can do like, here's the code I ran that did this data stuff. And then here's some words explaining things. Then here's the code I ran for this part. Then here's some word explaining things. And then you have this single document. You can have the single document that explains what you did. And someone else can load up the document and run it and like, yeah, it works. And the wording, the English words would then help them understand like what's going on. Okay, that's why we're doing this. And then this video here, second video, I might replace with this video that I'm making right now, so that it just kind of explains what we're gonna be doing with these labs. So all the words are important, but I'm skipping ahead for the sake of time. So when you see this, there's a data set called Arthuthnot, and I hope I'm saying that right. And then you copy that, and you go over here, and you can run it. And look at that. I now have this, and it hasn't loaded in all the way. It's a promise. So if I say Arthuthnot, then you see it's a Tibble, which is a type of data structure, and it kind of gives it to me similar to a spreadsheet where it has columns, year, boys, girls, and then the rows are indexed starting from 1. And so this is our data set that we're going to work with for this lab. And so then you can also view it. So one way to view the data is just like type in the name of the data set. Another way is to say type view, or view not. And if you're slow, it'll often suggest it. So press tab and it completes it, press enter, and then you can view it more like a spreadsheet. And in fact, if you have multiple screens, you could always show it in a new window and move it over to your other screen. Uh-oh. I'm having screen problems with the fact that it went too big. All right, so that was a mistake. All right, let's see. Let's just close it then. All right, problem solved. Then the third way is just go over here. Like this little window here has your environment. In this case, like what are your variables? What data have you created? So we have a data set called ArcticNot. So you can double click on it and it views it. All right. So by clicking here, it's the same as typing view ArcticNot. All right, back to our lab. Then you can also glimpse it, and that tells you more information. So make sure when you highlight, don't miss it in parentheses. So get the whole thing, bring it over, glimpse it, and yeah, we've got, now it does it, it did it transposed a little bit of ways. So 82 rows, 3 columns, and then year, boys, girls. Okay. The actual spelling of these columns is going to be important for how we use it later. Okay, so then it should have looked like this. It did look like that. Congratulations. All right, so now we can look at individual columns. So we can copy and paste that, or I can start typing it and look for the completion. So if I type ArcticNot, and then I complete it there, then I press the $sign, and then it gives me the 3 columns. I can use the up and down arrows to choose, or I can type them out. So I press enter, and it shows boys, and then I press enter. And that's all the numbers from the column of boys. Okay. And then it explains like what this data set is. It's one of the first data sets ever. It's from a doctor in London who was counting the number of boys and girls who were baptized into the Church of England in the 1600s. So let's see, what command we use to extract just the counts of girls baptized? Well, what do you think? Seems to me like we should just do ArcticNot, press tab to complete it, $sign. Well, look at that. Probably the answer. Okay, so so that's our first question for this lab. So now we should make a lab report, because that's how we're going to give our answer. So over here, I'm going to create new file, R markdown. We'll make it the ... And we're going to do it from template. And look for lab report, and especially the lab report for statistics lab 1, because it's going to have the answer for exercise 1 if you do that one. Okay, let's call it lab 1. And then it's going to be in this project since you made a project. So just know that this is where it's at, okay? Because you're going to need to know where it's at when it's time to turn it in. Okay, so okay. All right, now instead of like that little the testing 1, 2, 3, where I could just have a couple commands. So for instance, like I could have put load here, stuff like that. Instead of that, I now have this thing, which is going to follow that idea of the reproducible research. So we've got stuff at the top. Okay, title. The title has already been given for you for this template. Author, that goes, that's your name. And I'm okay if you work together with 1 or 2 other people on these labs, as long as everyone's learning. So make sure nobody's dead weight. But as long as everyone's learning, it's fine to work together on these. Just know that the final project, you'll need to turn in by yourself. So if you're dead weight on the projects and you don't know how to do anything, come the final project, that's going to be trouble for you. But so anyway, author. So it could be Ryan and Ryan Johnson and friends, or okay. And then the date, if you do it like this, it's going to automatically put in today's date. And you could also just get rid of that and put in whatever date you want, but whatever. And then output the type of lab report for our textbook. Okay, so this will, it's already set up so that you have this code chunk at the beginning that it brings in this package that we need to use called the tidyverse, and then this package for our textbook. So it kind of it brings in extra stuff into RStudio with those two commands. And then exercise 1 is already given for us. It's RSP not $girls. Okay. And notice that these code chunks are from, it's the button on your keyboard that's in the upper left next to the 1. So upper left next to the 1 is 1, 2, 3, then R, and then the name of the chunk. And then you could have like a command, message equals false or not, and then 1, 2, 3. Now you can put in code. Okay. Another way to do it is Control-Alt-I. You could also, if you're on a Mac, Command-Alt-I. It creates code chunks like that, lickety split. And you don't have to name your code chunks. So this would just be an unnamed code chunk. And so that's what lets you create code and then text. So once you are, like after each exercise even, it might be good to knit. So this will knit this together, make a bunch of things happen, and then poof, your lab report appears. And it's got the title, your name, the date, and then it has the code you ran, and exercise 1. Here's the code, there's the answer, whoopee. Okay, some of these exercises you're supposed to add text instead of code. So follow the directions, and once you're done, now this is really annoying that it's showing up too high on my screen. So anyway, but now that I've done that, lab 1, okay, stop being silly. There it is. So once you've knit it together, so this is so lab1.rmd, which means R Markdown, is sort of the version that you type in, and then lab1 HTML is the output that looks pretty. You can open it in a web editor or in the RStudio editor or the web browser. So you can open it in your own web browser, view it like that. This is the final product you will submit to me. So go back to here. So that means once you're done, once you've done all of these answers and knit it together and created the pretty HTML, then go over to, let's see, where am I at? There, go back to here, and then you're gonna turn in the lab report right here. And then I'm looking at it from the faculty view. So your view here is gonna be different, but you would submit it, you would upload the file in here. So for example, see, let's show all of you. And then I'm gonna pick on Cassie, because I just had her in my Intro to Proofs class at the end of the session. So I'm gonna submit a file from her, and then I'm gonna pull up, let's see. So where did I put, this is in, I have mine in my Google Drive, Data Science, Stats Lab, Stat Lab 1. So go here, Google Drive, my Drive, data science, starts with S, Stat Labs, Lab 1, and then go over to the Turnitin and Lab 1, and then drag and drop. Name it something like testing 1, 2, 3, and then add submission. And then Turnitin 2 will process it, give you a digital receipt, and I'm in the way of the closing it. And then it should also tell you how similar your lab report is to other lab reports. And that'll be a little off because there's certain parts like exercise 1, exercise 2, it's going to be the same for everyone, but also helps me catch people who cheat. So there's that. And then Cassie, I'll delete this now so it's not clogging up your lab report. And that's it. So that's how to do the lab report. Okay.